Exposed emotions and colors. My research on exposed emotions and color presents the different sides of the global African presence. I visually communicated ideas. Like this image, for example, shows my idea of community service, or what the Nation of Islam did in the city of Chicago this summer, helping to organize and keep the crime off of the streets. I also paint pictures that show you how violence and how the effects of it kind of feed into the psyche of the people in the community. Like this picture, for example, shows a young lady standing on a bus stop in southwest Atlanta, and the depiction of what we would call fear and how it shapes people's minds and keeps people in a type of sheltered environment inside of these environments. On this 7-foot mural that I did, I was showing the education level in which Africans live in across the world, where education is confronted with things like violence and drugs and the abuse of drugs, and people still living and prospering within these environments and also carrying on. These images are always showing something that makes a mood or attitude kind of shift back and forth, while we're supposed to live in a civilized world. I'm showing the way people have put into a type of slave-like systematic rulership where human beings have to live and prosper and work and do sharecropping work against their will. So inside of my work, I'm painting ways in which people refuse to accept and do all of this type of work. I'm showing a sense of hope away from all of the fear and oppression, how over the time blight and poverty brings people down and still prosper. And I just made this colorfully vibrant inside of a negative community. The effects of crack abuse and having fun and the sadness that it entails. And in moving into my new series, I'm showing the effects of the Reaganomics, to show the after effects of what can happen inside of a community where crime takes over. This young man, Darian Albert, he was beaten to death by some children outside of his high school over gang violence. He was beaten with a board, and this was publicized and broadcasted all over YouTube and the news all over the world. This happened like 3 years ago in the city of Chicago, outside of this man's school. This summer, this man, Michael Haynes, he was killed over random violence in the city as he was heading off to go to college. To me, this is like a memorial showing the after effects of what could happen inside these type of situations. People always having to take their last dime and use it for everything that they have, and not ever having the right amount of money to live off of. So I depicted pictures of living inside of a world where sadness is inside of her face, because every penny she has is flipped around and turned into another penny to live off of. So she's working to loan money back and forth all of the time. We have the 3D church followers. These people normally are following, it's like a cult following, searching for hope inside of a negative situation. That's why I'm using 3D glasses to give off the effect of prayer and hope, because they have to magnify it just to receive it well. Living in an environment where human beings have to submit themselves to living in a world where you are looking to rent a place inside of an outhouse. And over here you have a block that's empty, where a man is standing guard on something that he doesn't even own or incorporate or have any type of business dealings inside of it. He's just standing guard just for the sake of it. It's like a fear of some sort. Inside of the communities also, you have the police oppression, an image that's depicting police brutality and the violence that comes along with it and how it affects the people. So his face is kind of saddened, because every time like an African male in the world is like harassed by the police, it's like 30 to 40 police for one person, and he becomes a victim automatically. Juxtapose a story that I was working on from South Africa, where you had the District 6 in the community where people were forced out of where they lived to allow outsiders that wanted to colonize Africa or South Africa to live. And I also mixed in the situation with Trayvon Martin and how he was gunned down in the community he was walking through. And I put it together just as some type of hope and relief over the situation for that young man. So I mixed District 6 in South Africa in with the Trayvon Martin story. On this picture, I've depicted the idea of what I would call like a sad dream. You have a African-American male living in a world where he has to polish himself up with his USA hat, and he's cool because of his lifestyle, his image, his slick tie and shoes, and he gets the girl, or he gets some type of attention based on how he portrays himself. You know, it's kind of like commercialism, and the gimmick and the attire that you wear gets you the proper things. And I was using the We Accept EBT as some type of gimmick to show how in the cities we live in, you see these type of signs displayed all over the place, almost as a mockery or some type, to show that people need some type of government assistance to live off of. So I use that as one of my favorites because gun violence is always occurring. Impoverished environment mixed in with people who feel like they have to use weaponry to survive, or feel like they have to have some type of tool to protect themselves in an everyday struggle. And we're always resisting and fighting amongst each other to make sure that we survive. And it's like a young man has passed away, and this is like grief. And inside of the communities you normally see all over the world now, I was doing a research and studying to find that there's some type of shrine that people use to symbolize the fact that somebody has left the planet. So they use like a telephone pole or a light pole and place teddy bears and candles and crosses all over the pole to project some type of going away for that person. And it's normally a lot of grief, and and sometimes inside these communities it's based on some type of violence, gang violence. And okay, imagine living in a world where right next to the place where people have prayer and worship, there's like a liquor store all over the place. Right on that same block, you might have guys selling drugs or gang banging and carrying guns. So I'm portraying like an image of a guy coming out of a place of worship, but also faced with the possibility of death. And then you have a person that's standing there as an innocent victim. And this is even what the picture's, really about, like trying to give that. These people could be all together and he could be protecting him at the same time, because that's the type of world you live in, where you have a positive and a negative all inside of one world at the same time. Certain school systems I've written about and researched and actually worked through the fact that you can have teachers and students that are kind of just staring at each other. So it's giving the effect of a dramatic don't interact whatsoever, and it's kind of like the removal of education and more of a standoff. So you have classrooms nowadays, based on the study, where a lot of the educators are not educating, they're just there collecting some type of income, while the students sit there and look at them and wonder what are they there for, because somebody just sent them. Okay, exposed emotion in color visually depicts education, violence, poverty, oppression, and religion as it connects to the global African presence. These works carefully depict, shape, and mold the many images. So I carefully depict each one of these images to show you how all of it ties together through my research and my analysis. Thank you.